Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cloverly Academy. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, award-winning brand strategist, author, and speaker, Orly Zeewy. Orly Zeewy is an award-winning brand strategist, author, and sought-after speaker who helps entrepreneurs and growth stage companies turn fuzzy messaging into clear, compelling brand experiences. She is the founder of Zeewy Brands and the creator of the I Make Fuzzy Clear methodology, which helps leaders articulate their value proposition in 15 seconds or less. Orly is the author of Ready, Launch, Brand, the Lean Marketing Guide for Startups. The book was endorsed by Seth Godin and debuted as the #1 new business release on Amazon. Thanks for joining us today, Orly.
Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Sure, we're so excited to speak with you today about public speaking. So, Orly, as an author, how do you distill a book's core idea into a 10-second value proposition that works on stage?
Well, it's always the shorter your answer, the longer it takes to get there, right? So there's work that has to happen ahead of that. So research, absolutely, you should research your audience, but you also need to really get clear on what is your book's focus? Is it to inspire? Is it to disrupt thinking, your thinking, someone's thinking, or an industry? Kind of what's what lane are you in? Start with that, and then you identify who will benefit. And that's, of course, your readers, but also your audience. And think about what are they going to get from the book. And then look for stages that actually speak to those people. So if you're talking to, women who have built a company from scratch in the beauty industry, I don't know, there are different events that are focused to different types of attendees. And then, do some research, go online, check out the events. I always recommend having a list of events that fit that criteria. And then once you're on stage, make sure you understand who these people are, what they really need, and then start with their why. What's in it for them? With my first book, Ready Launch Brand, I set out to change the way people think about marketing at the start of their business. The why for founders is that integrating marketing into their company from the start is going to help them beat the odds of success.
Certainly. Well, that's great advice, Orly. I really like how you harped upon really knowing your target market and speaking to them in each public speaking event that you do guest in. Now, what would you say your process is for helping speakers move from content-heavy talks to transformation-driven presentations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it comes back to focusing on the recipient and not on your process. So when we focus on the benefits that the audience is going to glean from your talk, instead of focusing only on our personal journey, then it becomes easier to edit your talk down to the key points. Storytelling is a really powerful way to connect with your audience. I always suggest pick one story. We don't need 20 stories. Pick one story that illustrates either the transformation that you're talking about, whether it's how we think about something that's universal, perhaps, or a journey that your audience is going to relate to. And then stick to the basics of storytelling. There's a beginning, middle, and end. The transformation is the point of the story. So spend less time explaining how you got there. Get me to that transformation and just give me enough of a leadway so by the time I get to that, it's powerful. Because what happens is if you spend too much time in the process of it, we kind of lose the point of the story.
Certainly. Yeah, that's a great point. Now, I want to know, you've spoken at conferences, universities, and incubators. What
Yeah.
adjustments should authors make when speaking to different audience types?
So let's start with who's in the audience. So conferences, typically you're talking could be hundreds of people. So those usually are looking more for inspirational, transformational speakers because that's more universal. So think of it in terms of a common problem or human condition that you're going to be talking about, something that people can relate to. And so then that information is more universally understood. For universities, what I have found is, first of all, It's students. So you're focused on really providing information to students who are at the beginning of their career. So you want to make sure that your talk is relatable to 18 to 21-year-olds, which I would say these days is a little bit more challenging than it used to be. But it's also very different. I mean, speaking to 18 to 21-year-olds who are at the beginning of their career is very different than speaking to an audience of mature um, corporate leaders, right? So you want to really think about where are these people, and they're looking for advice, but not being lectured to. They want to, again, storytelling is really important. And I would also find that humor is a good icebreaker. If that's not comfortable for you, I usually start with a question. Have you thought about, or has this ever happened to you? You know, right? Make it really personal. And then also, I would say, don't be distracted by all these people on their phones because what they are probably doing is posting your, whatever you're saying, they're posting in real time on socials. So it's actually, in a way, in a strange way, it's actually a compliment when they're on their phones, but can be I've been in that situation. It can be a little distracting. When it comes to incubators, I've actually had a lot of experience speaking at incubators, and remember, their goal is to help startups scale. That's their whole purpose. So what you want to do is really have a much more interactive approach, and it's also more intimate gathering. I mean, I've been in like mini workshops where I'm speaking to a group of maybe 10, 15 founders. So I usually include a real-time exercise at the end of my talk that brings home how this can help attendees understand or get comfortable with something that you're an expert in. And remember that incubators typically like to bring in experts in their field. So what they're looking for is, your wisdom, your process, a way of thinking that is going to maybe shift the way other people think. So, for instance, an exercise that I've used pretty successfully is show them how to build an elevator pitch, for example, and then in real time show them how you can sort of switch the pitch and make it more actionable.
Yeah, those are all great tips, Orly. I'm particularly interested in just the keynote or breakout talks. How can authors use keynote or breakout talks to clearly communicate their why without sounding rehearsed or too salesy?
Yeah, salesy is a big one. I think again, you want to think more about who are these people. So, it always comes back to the more research you do, the more likely your talk will resonate because you understand what's top of mind. So I was,
Right.
look at events that have happened in the past who have spoken. Usually there's a theme for every conference, right? So, and when they bring in a keynote, it's usually for inspiration, and they want somebody who can speak to their experience, but without, talking about their experience, if you if you know what I mean, right?
Exactly.
So you want to focus on the why of the audience. That's how you avoid selling. When you know the event, you know the audience, you want to focus your talk on something that's going to be meaningful to them, and you want to connect to a need or want that your audience can identify. Believe me, if this resonates with them, people will come up to you at the end of your talk and say, "Oh my God, can I have your card?" Or "Can we connect on LinkedIn? I'd love to talk to you further." So you want to focus on how you serve, not what you sell. Someone said to me a long time ago, and it really stuck with me, lead people to your solution, not with your solution.
That's great. Yeah, that's very true. I think a lot of times when we're public speaking, we can especially get a little wrapped into ourselves and
A little bit.
achievements, like you said. And what's the purpose? We're serving the
Right.
audience. We're providing a need. Um, well, Orly, this has been so insightful. I lastly just want to ask you, what is one mistake that you see authors make quite a bit when positioning themselves as speakers, and how can clearer messaging fix that?
So, it's so funny. People always think there's some magic pill, but really it's just you do the work. You put in the hours, you put in the time. I always talk about this idea of alignment. Alignment is really important. You have something that you do really well. There are people who need what you do really well. But again, like we were just saying, it's not about selling it to them, but it's about showing them the benefit of going through this particular process or thinking in this different way. And the problem that I see speakers make all the time is they try to be all things to all people. When you do that, that's called generic messaging. And the problem with that is when you try to speak to everyone, you end up connecting with no one.
Right.
So again, getting clear on, who this attendee is, even creating an avatar. I mean, I've thought about that too. It's like, so you're actually speaking to one person, and that always feels very authentic when you're in an audience and it feels like you're speaking to me. That's because the speaker has really spent time understanding how to align what they're talking about with where you are and what you need to hear in that moment.
Well, Orly, thank you again so much. That was wonderful insight on public speaking.
Thank you.
Lastly, where can our listeners find and connect with you?
So of course you can go to my website, zeewybrands.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. As far as I know, there's only one Orly Zeewy. So if you can spell my name, you can find me. I also have a YouTube channel at Orly Zeewy. And of course, you can find my book on Amazon.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's interview with award-winning brand strategist, author, and speaker Orly Zeewy. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.